Exactly.
Ooh, I think it's time to say happy, or is it? Are we on? Are we
Yeah.
on YouTube, gentlemen? I don't see the little red number, but we'll
We
assume we're on. We're trying hard. We're sitting here aging gracefully. And it's time once again for the new year 2024 to say happy new year and welcome to the SBAU hour. SBAU Astro Hour is, ladies and gentlemen, a 1 hour blog we do live every Monday morning, 11 to noon, for Santa Barbara Astronomical Unit, South Central Coast Longtime Telescope and Astrophysics Club. I'm your host, very, very appreciative, newly elected, renewed Vice President Ron Herron. I'll introduce you to the rest of the board and some very knowledgeable comrades and volunteers of SBAU. Coming up, you can watch us on YouTube. And we got Friday morning, first Friday, this Friday, it'll be talking about Stellafane, another club back east. It's been around for 100 years. Did lens grinding back in the 1920s. Let's meet. Well, first of all, let me tell you what we're going to talk about, and then I'll introduce you to the president and the outreach people and everybody. It's a recap of the year ending yesterday. We'll talk about on this program number 150. Right there, episode 150 for January 1st through the 7th, 2024. You're going to go up in the heavens right away, explore Auriga, go past Orion, the Hunter, check with Whittemore about his cruising the cosmos with his incredible lens. Capella, the star, will come up. We got quadratids. I'm sure that's how it's pronounced. Our first meteor shower of the new year this week. And it's 5 years before an asteroid near let's see, it's called Apophis, will come damn close. It's going to be near, and it's giant. It's big. They found an ice rink on Mars. Not going to believe where. Well, I'll tell you where, on the North Pole. We're going to see a picture of it. The real menace in space. We're going to have an expert on space debris come to our club in 3 months. April, we'll be talking about space junk. Now let's meet the man in control of our webcasting right now, Jerry Wilson, beloved president, reelected. Jerry,
Good morning.
good to have you aboard.
Happy New Year.
Happy 7th year, I think. And Pat Forgy is his lovely wife. Chuck McPartland and his wife, Pat, are incredible. Chuck is outreach and the best damn outreach guy in the whole cosmos and in charge of most events. Pat is now not only merchandise manager, but taken on duties from recently retired from the board, Colin Taylor, as treasurer of our club. Joining us right after the three of us lined up is my friend Tim Crawford. Tim, resident lens expert, telescope guy, who's mailed on the, is the Tuesday workshop now once a month, twice a month, or
once a week?
Once a week.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. And how's Karen, your wife? She made it through the
She's doing good. She's doing good. We're finally over all the whatever grunge is going around. It took a long time to go away.
I heard about that, and it's on the rise again. We're going to have those damn masks on before long again, guys.
Yep.
And there's our incredible former Westmont guy, Tom Whittemore, baking bread for the holidays, author of the newsletter, puts it together. He's married to Maureen. And we got silly stuff to start the new year. These are Jerry's forwarded silly science cartoons. Most of them are science oriented. And I've written down my comments. Now let's see if I can match by leaning forward and watching. Here they come. Oh, is this the wannabe Santa? He is a Santa. He's wanting to be a writer of songs, trying to rewrite an original Christmas lyric, tends to overextend it a bit. He says, he observes you when you're sleeping. He observes you when you're awake. He performs analyses of the data and publishes the results in a peer-reviewed journal, etc. Doesn't fit the song, St. Nick. I'm sorry.
It's a little awkward for a song.
That's okay. We still got the Christmas spirit going. Now here's Calvin and Hobbes coming down the hill in a wagon. And Jerry labeled this, it's not a river in Egypt. And Calvin says, it's not denial. I'm just very selective about the reality I accept. Spoke for all of us with that one. Calvin and Hobbes. Love those. So far, that's two of about seven. You said is a couple aliens have climbed out of their hovering UFO spacecraft. What do we have here is a variation of the classic time-honored, often sci-fi cliche. Take me to your bathroom, please. Thank you. I would. There you go.
They
don't
always
have-
wait till the last minute.
I guess. All right, here's landmarks from space. You label this amazing facts. Is the satellite picture an ISS on the end, on the left side, or is it a telescope?
That's the Hubble.
Oh, boy, yeah.
Looking down at these three things that can be seen from space, ladies and gentlemen: the Great Wall of China, pyramids of Giza, they can see that, and that guy up on the street from you, that's that Christmas yard display. Keeps you awake day and night, my God. Any of you kept awake last night after midnight in your neighborhood with exploding?
It was pretty calm for me.
Yeah, it was good to hear too. Here's our good friend Neil deGrasse Tyson, who really brings soul to astronomy, talking to the girls. She told him she wants to be a scientist when she grows up, and he told her, you know, the greatest thing about being a scientist, young lady, you never have to grow up. Attaboy. Ever seen a Star Talk in that black comic? All right, here we go. Do I remember this? This looks like Far Side. Oh, synonym rolls. It's odd. What kind of pastry comes with a thesaurus? Incidentally, leave that up there for a second. You guys, did you hear about the mobile library, the bookmobile that flipped over over the weekend at State Street, spilling out a whole bunch of thesauruses all over the street? Witnesses to that accident were stunned, shocked, overwhelmed, blindsided, thunderstruck, stupefied, surprised.
You had to be
Awesome.
there.
Yeah, you had to be there, dumbfounded. Okay, keep the levity going. Okay, a couple of cockroaches land. Or they come from, I guess, the future in time, right?
Yeah.
When I write this, we're going to give the planet back to him. He says to him, cockroach says, welcome. We come from the future and just want to say, hey, thanks for the planet. Glad to have it back. We'll be crawling around in their walls, I guess. Gentlemen, Senator myself, it's good to see you again. Going to be 3 years in about a month and a half, around March. We will have reached that amount of time, and we have a few viewers. I'm not sure about today. Oh, here, look at this.
Yeah, we're competing with the Rose Parade.
I've got on the YouTube channel, I've got one person watching, and it's me.
Well, they can see the old ones. We archive them. Now, this is sort of the review, right? The recap of 23, the last year. Are these the past full moons?
This is a lunar recap, a recap of what happened in the moon.
Right.
Last year, we had 13 full moons, including a blue moon in August. We had 4 consecutive supermoons, July and September. And we had 2 lunar eclipsi, penumbral lunar eclipse in May and a partial in October.
And is that portrayed here somehow?
Yeah.
I can't, it's too small to read the print, but I assume there's more than 13
is identified.
Oh, there we go.
There's a fellow that from India, Kolkata, India, and
Right.
he took each full moon. He took a picture, and each picture is let's see how many. It's geez, each image is a stack of 200 images. So he's got a sharper resolution than it shows on this collage. But each one is labeled and each one is the appropriate full moon at that time.
And the moon, as we all know, is tidally locked.
Yeah, there's the April pink moon, May the flower moon, strawberry moon in June, buck moon in July, sturgeon moon in August, blue moon. There are actually 2 moons in 1 month, and then September's harvest moon, October's second harvest moon, November's beaver moon, and last month's cold moon.
Wow. How close to a planet does a moon have to be tidally locked? Are most of the Galilean moons around Jupiter?
It's not so much how close, it's how mass is distributed in the object.
Oh, really? Okay, well,
And most of the moons in the solar system are tidally locked.
Yeah.
Most of them?
Yep.
Yeah.
What is a buck moon?
That's when the deer come out to play.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Or as Disney used to put it, they get Twitter pated.
It's called the Bambi moon, I guess.
Uh-huh.
All right. And this is going to happen again. We get 13, but we only have 12 months. That requires a whole show to talk about again, doesn't
Well,
it?
the blue moons are multiple moons in the same month. So we had, what, 2 of those. So we're going to have more moons than months on this chart.
But we should have 13 months because the moon takes 28 days, not 30 or 31. But such is the way they laid it out.
Well, they were more interested in keeping the seasons in tune.
Is this the Arabic Muslim calendar that we're on?
No.
They didn't do the 12 months instead of 13?
No,
We're
I
not,
forget
we
where our
don't have a
calendar-
lunar calendar. We have a
Yeah.
solar calendar.
Okay. Well, it works. Whatever works. It's a great picture.
Yeah.
Now we're going up into the space, folks, for a nighttime viewing of what area? Good old Hunter? Is it Orion again?
This is Auriga.
No,
Oh, Orion. But
right
it's
down here, Auriga.
okay, which
And
is
it
near.
kind of looks like a distorted house. You know, there's the base, the wall, the roof, and then another base down here. And then there's these 3 open clusters.
Yeah, Jerry, El Nath
30.
also, El Nath
What's that?
also, El Nath also belongs to Auriga. It's shared by Taurus. It means the butting. So
Oh, down here, yeah.
yeah, that also belongs to Auriga. So I see it as five pointers, five.
Or like a
Oh.
bent horseshoe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, this is probably the only thing in the planetarium software I have, the
Mhm.
Sky 6, that looks like I picture it in the sky. So there are many ways to draw these lines, as you point
Mhm.
out, down here and down there. But the topic for this section is these 3 open clusters.
Mhm.
Very interesting clusters.
The one thing about that picture there is that when Tom was showing me that last outreach, I believe up at Westmont, and we were going for 36, 37, 38,
Mhm.
and they're not lined up in a line. I think that 38 is inside the boundary lines, and maybe 36 as well, but 37's outside. I
Yeah,
think.
37's down here.
Yeah.
It's
But
even
those
below a
aren't the
line.
boundary lines, Tim. Those are just the lines of the figure of the constellation.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, all
Everybody
3 of
seems
those
to draw them
are in
differently.
Auriga. All 3
Yeah,
of those.
all 3 are
Auriga.
in. Okay, I didn't know that, but they're not. It's for some reason they didn't name them in a line. They just they bounced around. Like the 36 and then 37 outside and then back inside the 38.
Yeah.
So I found that was kind of unusual. I wondered why they numbered them that way.
Yeah, and from the house here on Saturday, at least 2 of them were naked eye visible.
Ah,
It was a pretty nice night, as Chuck will attest to.
Before the clouds came after me.
Yeah. So tomorrow night at 9:00, this
Mhm.
picture is accurate, and Jupiter then is right in here. It's about in here all this week, over here next to Taurus and Aldebaran.
Mhm.
That's a California nebula at the top.
Yes.
I'll be damned. Didn't know we had one named after our state. Is
And
this
it does
where-
vaguely
Go
look
ahead.
like our state too. And here's the Pleiades up here.
Mhm.
Talking asterisms, right? Auriga is an asterism
So-
or a constellation?
A constellation is an asterism, Ryan. Asterism is a
Mhm.
generic term.
Oh, really? So all of them are okay.
Yeah.
Didn't realize that. Well, what are all those little clustered names in the upper right?
So Jerry, if you wouldn't mind collapsing this just a little bit so we can get a little bit of Orion too. If you can collapse it a pinch.
So
I
it
just
is
want to tell
near
people,
Orion.
I just want to tell people who own binoculars how spectacular this area of the sky is. And you're kind of getting way down on the lower right there, the head of Orion. It's around
Yeah,
it.
we'll get to Orion later. There's his bow, and he's
Yeah.
down here.
Something is fishy about this because Jupiter is not in Taurus now. Jupiter's over in Aries.
That's right.
Hmm.
Okay, let me look at this.
But for anybody who has
Oh, I could have said it
binoculars, this
wrong
is
for
just
something.
spectacular. Even at about 6:30 to 7 in the evening, it's just amazing.
Oh, I set the year to 2025 accidentally.
Okay, that makes
Sorry.
sense.
Next January, Jupiter will be in.
We're
Taurus.
we're just getting, well prepared.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because Jupiter takes 12 years to go around the sun, every year it ends up in a different constellation
Right.
along the zodiac. Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
So this is the first one we're going to look at, which is M36.
Mhm.
Uh-huh.
It is a small open. Oh, the reason we're looking at open clusters is because the moon is just barely past full moon. So it doesn't come up till after sunset. And later this week, it'll be last quarter and it'll come up at midnight.
Mhm.
So in the evenings, these stars are, or these features are washed out by moonlight. I'm going to sneeze.
Mhm.
There you go. Get it out of your system.
And so that we're looking at stars because the diffused moonlight takes away from the faint fuzzies.
Mhm.
So this
Awesome.
this star cluster has about 60 stars in it.
Mhm.
Really?
It shines at magnitude 6.3. That's a cumulative one. So it is possible to see this with your naked eye as a fuzzy patch.
Mhm.
So
Which I did on Saturday. Yeah.
Well, does it look more like a fuzzy patch or a bunch of stars? Just out of curiosity.
Just a little
Tom.
fuzzy
well, if
patch.
you kind of squint your eyes and move far away, that's what it would look like in the naked eye. This is a magnified shot through a telescope, so it's not going to look like this to your naked eye.
We don't have names for all 60 of those stars, though, do we?
Well,
No,
there's a couple. There's
They all
Struve.
have catalog numbers.
Yeah.
For every
there
one of
is
them?
there is a feature in this called Holoea, which is
That's
a.
Hawaiian.
We'll get to that in a minute. That's one feature that's in this cluster. Another one is a binary star called Struve 737.
Mhm.
Hmm.
Now this is a younger star cluster. It has bright B-type stars and it has no red supergiants. It's about 1,200 to 1,300 parsecs away.
Yeah.
Each parsec's about 3 light years.
Hmm.
So that would be about 3,600 light years away. So it's not real close. It's in one of the arms of our galaxy.
Well, most stars are multiples, aren't they? Struve
Yeah,
737.
half of them.
Yeah, okay.
Yep.
But they just happen to take that Struve 737 and pick it out for us at random.
Well, it's naked eye. It's a naked eye double,
Oh, you can see them. Oh,
or telescopic double is what I mean.
Yeah,
Visual
telescopic.
double, as
visually,
opposed
you
to
can
having
see
to do spectroscopic.
Mhm.
Do we see it go back and forth around each other, either edge on, or can you actually see them moving doing their orbits?
No,
No, if you drink enough.
yeah.
Okay.
I mean, you could over a long enough period of time, over a couple of lifetimes, but not night to night.
Huh. So it's not like a solar system, one orbiting the other, the
It
bigger
is.
one.
They're orbiting a common center of mass, but they're not orbiting at a rate at which you'd notice a change in a human lifetime.
Okay, not as fast as we are, all us planets
Right.
going around the sun. So they got to be several AU apart.
Now,
Yeah.
Tom, is this the most spectacular of the three that you were showing me?
I think it's the one upper. Okay.
Okay, so it'll be 38.
Remember that they're out of order in the numbers. They get
Yeah.
out of order, so I can never remember,
Yeah.
who's.
Okay.
There you go. 38's on top, Tim.
Yeah, we're looking
Okay.
at 36 right now, right there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay, thank you.
And this is the Holy Oleo sounds like Soupy Sales.
Holy Toledo. It's the Holy Toledo.
The outflow of material from this in different satellite images.
Mhm.
Hmm.
So it is because of this prominent flow, which in Hawaiian means powerful or means flowing gas in Hawaii.
Okay.
They probably have several names from that for those kinds of things, like they do for lava. But anyway, it's a young T-Tauri type star, and it's transitioning from a protostar, class 1, and we'll see more of that when we get to the Orion Nebula later on, into a pre-main sequence star. It's a testament to how young this star cluster is.
Yeah, a friend of mine used to call Jerry T-Tauri stars baby suns.
Baby suns.
He's called baby suns. He actually studied T-Tauris.
Okay. Now, in this picture taken by Pan-STARRS, this central portion is just an indicator that the sensor was saturated. Nothing significant to that except it's super bright. This is from the Deep Sky Survey 2. This is from Glimpse, and this is from 2MASS. So interesting feature. You will need a big telescope to see this.
Okay, well, let's talk distances for a minute. Are any of those pairs of stars we were just looking at in the star cluster M36 or 30, that's 6, are they as close to each other as we are with Proxima and Alpha Centauri?
It's a good question. They're probably fairly close to each other.
But that's still years of light years away,
Yeah,
not light months.
Right. No, it's not light months.
But some stars are light months apart. Certainly the binaries and trinaries are, aren't they? Or light
Some
weeks.
of them are light days apart.
Ooh, getting heavy. Those are the ones that's sucking the lifeblood out of their partner. Ooh, here goes another one.
This is M37.
Aha.
It's the brightest and richest of the 3 star clusters.
Okay.
A lot more red giants in this baby.
The what?
A lot of red giants in this baby.
Yes, yes, they're very nice orange-red stars. Now, these 3 clusters were discovered by the big 3 of astronomers at the time: Giovanni Battista Hodierna, Giuliano Legentili, and Charles Messier. Charles was the 3rd person to discover these things within a decade, but he's the one that listed them in his catalog.
That was his 37th. But now
this is M37.
Is the whole picture, all those stars part of it, or just the cluster in the middle?
Just the bright things in the middle about this size.
Got it. Okay.
Kind of looks like Mickey Mouse, with the ears up here and the mouth down there and the nose. So now that would be an asterism, what I just said.
Yeah.
Mickey Mouse just went to public domain today. You can use anything from early Disney you want without.
It has to be Steamboat Willie. Yeah, the later Mickey Mouse is still under
the later.
copyright.
Okay, got it.
Now this cluster M37, I can't find it in there or point it out to you, but it is only the 3rd open cluster known to have a planetary nebula in it. But I was not able to pin it down. Now we'll go along to the 3rd of our open clusters. Got a very nice guide star here.
M38.
Yeah, M38.
Okay.
It is also called the starfish cluster.
Wow.
Oh, I see. Okay. Yeah, I can see that. Kind of.
Now, do you see any asterisms in this?
Well, I brought up asterisms and was corrected. That's anything that's up there, right? That forms.
Well, look at this.
Snake.
There's the crossbar and there's 2 legs of the Greek letter pi.
Oh, for crying out loud.
So this is the pi cluster.
Pie with a goblet on top of it.
Yeah.
And that's as fuzzy as it gets, or as clustered in the middle. Looks like there's all kinds of space there.
It's an open cluster. It's a loose cluster. Stars are drifting apart, about to go on to their own life cycle, independent of the group. Now we get to the constellation of Orion, probably the biggest feature in the night sky right now. There's all sorts of nebula and things my software has identified around here. This is Taurus up here, and where we were looking at, this is
The crab.
Way up.
Gemini.
Yeah,
Gemini.
And
Yeah.
the
not
Christmas
lost
tree.
Auriga.
Way up at the top.
Yeah, but
M37 is just about to go off on the upper left.
Yeah, there it is. Thank you. Yeah. So now we're down here below. We couldn't get it to Orion on that chart, and we can't get to Auriga really well on this chart, but here's Orion.
Mhm.
Hmm.
The Christmas tree cluster, the Cone Nebula, things we looked at last week.
Mhm.
Hubble's Variable Nebula, the Rosette Nebula, a very dramatic and large nebula. The Horsehead Nebula. But we're looking at the Great Nebula in Orion, which is actually this third star of the sword down here. The middle star is not a star. It's this gaseous nebula. The winter constellations have most of the bright stars. If you will go out on cold winter nights, the skies are brighter. Now, this is a chart from Persia in the year 962
This is an amazing.
from a textbook on astronomy. And of course, they read this way.
Huh.
And they
And
have
you can
that convention that they had back then of flipping the constellation around as though you're looking at it from outside,
Hmm.
like it was on a
That's what's
sphere
wrong
around
with
the
it.
Earth.
That's, yeah.
Hmm. Well, I'll bet you if they had their own constellations, there was a turbine or two up there in the sky.
There's a what?
A turbine. That's I looks.
Oh, a turbine. Yeah, he's got it. Yeah.
There's a turbine in this picture, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Not
Wow.
marked by a star or anything. And in Arabia, they had a very famous astronomer, Omar Khayyam, who was also a poet.
Mhm.
And because he was an astronomer, he was referred to as Omar the tent maker.
Oh,
Because
Yeah.
that
there
what we
it was, we were looking at the inside of a tent in
got.
the night sky.
Well, is the curved arc on the left of that picture? Can you go back to it a second? Is that the bow?
Well,
That's-
that's
Yes. Oh,
That's
this is what I would think is the bow up here, but I
Well,
don't know.
well,
What's
that's
it?
the club, and then this was
Yeah, this is
usually
the
it's a
club,
lion
right.
skin shield rather than a bow.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
And I see
Yeah.
he's wearing a belt, so they gave him a belt too, right? The belt's been around a long time.
And he's
They
got
had
a
to
sword.
explain these asterisms. So belt, sword, foot.
Just no stars
he's-
in the turbine.
Yeah.
Interesting. All right.
Yes. Okay.
Plunge
This must
forward.
be Betelgeuse.
Oh, where?
Yep,
Okay.
right there.
Okay, got it. It was big then too, huh? That many years ago, it was still
Yeah.
a red giant.
Now
Wow.
this is a very long exposure of the region of Orion.
Mhm.
It shows the nebulosity. This is Barnard's Loop.
Uh-huh.
This is the Great Nebula in Orion right down there.
And what is Barnard's Loop again? Remnants
This
of a
big red
supernova?
No.
Eventually, it may have been. It's a shock wave coming out and going through this gas. It probably came from something here, right about in the middle, right about there, but very
Okay.
long ago. It's expanded way out. It's many, probably hundreds of light years.
Jerry, can we see Bernard's Loop with the filter?
I don't know. I've never seen it that way. I have to photograph it, and even then, it's hard from Santa Barbara or from Goleta here.
Okay.
You can see the little dark notch of the Horsehead Nebula there.
Oh,
And
yeah.
the Flame Nebula above it. This is the Witch's Head Nebula down here.
Mhm.
A lot of features on it. It's this is a what do they call them? A nursery of new stars, especially in the main nebula here. This is the closest you can come to seeing color with your naked eye if you're looking through a really large scope. Takes a lot of light to trigger the color centers of your eyeball.
Mm.
This is a very well processed photograph of M42 and what is it, M41 or M43?
43.
43. The reason being that in this region here, this is so bright that this frequently washes out everything. So multiple layers were taken at different exposure times, and then they were blended together to give a very nice effect for the whole.
That's how they do that.
Yeah. So here's this sad dolphin over here.
Oh, I see it. And this is part of Orion?
Yeah, this is the Great Nebula in Orion. This
Okay.
little wad of stars down here is the cluster called the trapezium,
Mhm.
which is stars that have just formed.
Mhm.
All sorts of things are happening in this nebula. Stars are forming in real time here, slowly in real time.
A lot
They
of
form. This is a
Hmm.
propelid, and Bach
Oh.
globules and propelids with a globule in it. These are forms, these are clusters of gas and dust that have gravitationally clung to each other, are in the process of forming disks and solar systems with stars.
Well, that's how it's done, right? That's how we
Yeah.
were created.
So this is a big ball of stuff. This is something that's starting to flatten out. It's starting to it's starting to rotate, or I mean, it rotates and it's starting to collapse along one axis this way. It could be just forming out of the dust this way with a streamline to it.
Is there a star in the inside of that dust?
There soon will be. There's nothing
Okay.
really in it. It's shining by reflected light off the dust.
It's still coalescing then, or
Yeah.
accreting, or whatever,
Yeah.
whatever the word would be.
Yeah,
Coming-
it's so big. It's way bigger than the solar system will eventually be. Otherwise, we couldn't see it at this distance.
Yeah, Tim, I think there's an in and out in the middle of that thing.
That'd be a long line.
Back
Thanks,
up
Chuck.
State Street. Oh, I guess that's Chick-fil-A.
But now they're created by sometimes by shock waves, right? We'll collect everything together, we'll push it together, right? And for some reason they start circling each other, they spinning, they just never clump and stay still. It's that Coriolis effect that makes hurricanes on
Not
the Earth.
Coriolis effect. It's conservation of angular momentum because there's some net rotation.
Yeah.
But you got to have the rotation to have planets. If it didn't rotate, I guess they never.
You need
Okay.
well when you rotate things, it's like stirring your coffee with cream in it. You develop little eddies and what are they, whirls and turbulences, and these turbulences are what become planets. The main one in the middle, the biggest one, most of the mass goes into the main one, I think. This shows a star with a cloud of dust circling around it and some trailing off. So this
And
is
if you zoom out a little bit, you can see a bow shock from all that too.
yeah.
Well, might it have been possible that the red giants we see, they're really monsters? I'm not sure if they got planets or not, but I'm thinking those would be the ones that maybe didn't become stellar systems like the solar system. They just clumped together, and there's all that would have become planets became part of the star. Is that
Well, that
possible?
happens too. It depends how fast things are moving and where the most of the clump is.
And our sun's going to be a red giant someday, Ron. So
Yeah.
it's not the fact that it's a red giant. It's just the fact that a very massive star. And when a really massive star fires up, it's pretty fierce and it could blow away all the stuff that would have otherwise formed planets around it.
Now
Chuck,
there's a lot. Go ahead.
Chuck, is the bow shock there? Is it only in one direction? Is there another shock around it, or to the 180
There's usually
degrees?
these jets coming out of these accreting young stars usually are bipolar. There's one on each side, but it just depends on how the material around it's distributed.
Right. Now you can see a lot of bow shocks in here. There's a faint one right there.
Yeah.
And then there's one right there.
Mhm.
And then the other side.
So these are shock waves produced by things moving at high speeds through dust or something that blew up and its energy is going out. This circular feature here is more circular than parabolic. So maybe it's some special kind of bow shock. There's arcs up here that could be. There's a bow shock.
There's a faint one just above that star.
Up here?
No, below. Keep going down along that line. Just keep going down along that line, and it's right about to your left. There's a faint semicircular.
Oh,
that I'm
yeah.
seeing there.
Yeah, there's a whole bunch of things in here
Yeah.
that are shock waves going this way and that way.
It's a
Wow.
busy place.
Yeah.
Yeah, boy.
It's going about the business of making new planets and stars.
Yeah, I always tell people at the star parties that this is where stars are born, not in Hollywood.
Hollywood is where they go to die.
Yeah.
Just takes a long time to watch them form planets and get life. That takes a while. Well, what
So
is
this is a first meteor shower of the new year, the quadrantids.
that's it?
It
Never heard of them.
is leftover. It is from the now defunct constellation Quadrans Muralis, which was first created in 1795, but it did not survive the 1922 adoption of the modern constellations by the International Astronomical Union, the same one that demoted Pluto later. But that's the 1922 council was when we got our 88 official star patterns. The same number of constellations as there are keyboards on a piano.
But we remember there was a comet involved, but we never saw it or named it.
I don't know which comet produced the debris from this one. No,
Oh, I see.
but
Okay.
I think most of them, if not all of them, have been tracked down and are assigned. They believe they know where it came from.
So most of your meteor showers are not named after the comets that left behind the trail. They're named after the area they come from in the sky, aren't they?
Yeah.
Got it. Interesting. All right. And when can we see this?
January 4th.
January 4th see on the bottom of the illustration, January 4th.
Oh, yeah, there it
This
is.
is looking northeast at 4 a.m. The center is in Buddhist. The radiant is right there, and they're going to appear to come from there.
Yeah,
And this is
Arcturus
famous for
comes up
producing
around
occasional
2,
fireballs.
1:30 or 2.
Yeah, and this
Oh,
is probably if this is one of those horrible astronomy magazine star charts, and they usually give their times in Eastern Standard Time. So
Oh,
I was
that's
gonna say,
sure
yeah,
is.
that's right, Chuck. Arcturus comes up around 1:30 now.
yeah,
Okay. So
Well, 4 a.m. back there is what, 1 a.m. here?
Yeah,
And look toward Ojai.
but it won't have risen by 1 a.m. here. When it rises,
Oh.
it's local time, 4 a.m.
Oh, I see. This is local time. Okay, looking northeast. Wow.
Well, no, whoever said the Eastern Standard Time, that's what they do give it that. So if the meteor shower peaks at 4 a.m., that's 1 a.m. here, but Buddhist hasn't risen here yet.
Oh,
but
you can
you'll still see some.
Yeah, you'll still see, because you don't have to look at the radiant to see the meteors.
yeah, because I see Vega come up around 5 in the morning.
Mhm.
Yeah, around 5.
And so this is typical of a map you'd see posted in Astronomy Magazine.
Yeah,
Mhm.
you
We'll
can
have-
see there's multiple constellations listed there: Hercules, Lyra, Draco, Ursa Major.
Mhm.
But good luck, finding the patterns. I mean, you can if you try really hard and you already know your constellations, but if you don't, this would drive you nuts.
Yeah, short of that, I just look northeast around the times of the show.
Right.
So for finder charts, I filter these out due to Chuck's sensitivity. But for meteor showers, I leave it in instead of draw my own.
So Jerry, are these called like Delta Ursids or something? Chuck, do you know?
No, this is the
It's called the
quadrant.
quadrantids.
Oh, okay. So from it used to be with those walls,
Yeah.
Morales. Yeah.
It was named after the mural quadrant that Tycho had
Okay. Mhm.
at his observatory.
Well, having not watched a lot of meteor showers in my life, the radiant is the spot in the sky from which all the meteors seem to be coming.
Yeah,
If you trace them back, they can appear
Yeah.
anywhere in the sky.
Mhm.
Oh, okay. So they're not just everywhere in that general vicinity. They're out of that radiant.
yeah.
It's like the hub.
And as
And
a
for
matter
me,
of
it's
fact, the
more often-
farther away from the radiant you get, the longer the trail will be.
Right. I was gonna say, Ron.
Closer to the radiant you are, the shorter, because they're coming right at you.
Right. So
Well, Tom, what were you gonna-
spectacular, Ron, is looking away from this stuff, almost the other part of the sky.
But what's hard to imagine is what does the radiant represent? Are we looking down through the tail? Is that like we're at the end of it and we're looking back into it, or didn't it pass across the sky?
Well,
Well, yeah, it passed across the sky and it left a tube of debris, and we're looking down that tube of debris.
Mhm.
Oh,
Just like we drive through a rainstorm, you're looking straight at the rainstorm.
Right.
but wouldn't the tube continue on the other side of the planet from
Mhm.
Yeah,
Opposite.
yeah.
Yeah, but those things can't catch up to us. We're driving through the tube going this way.
Oh, so there's not a radiant on the other side, 180 degrees away.
No,
If
they
there were,
would
you
be-
wouldn't see it anyway.
Yeah,
What does radiant mean? It radiates from, I guess,
Yeah,
right?
that's
Right,
it.
exactly.
Point of origin.
Isn't it a math term too? Isn't there radiance in mathematics somewhere?
I
You're
think
thinking of
Gradient.
gradient.
yeah.
That must be what it is. Yeah. Well, thank you.
Mhm.
Okay.
Fascinating stuff. Do you want to touch on the next asteroid from hell that may hit us? That was early in your talking notes.
We can do that.
What's it called?
Apophis.
Apophis. I knew it's Greek. There it is. Oh my God.
It's Egyptian, actually.
Oh, is that right? What the hell is it? I guess that would be coming up anyway. Yeah, here we are. Near Earth asteroid. Apophis 99942. And it's 5 years we got, and it'll be coming in so close that we'll have satellites out beyond it
Yes,
in 29, April of
29, yeah. When it was discovered, when was that? In
I should have that here.
2004.
Oh, yeah.
You can, in principle, determine any orbit from 3 independent observations at different times. That'll give you enough points to put that to figure out the whole orbit of the thing. But orbits change, and there are error bars on the 3 positions you put that leave error bars and when they're close together, like a few months apart, then the total orbit is uncertain in proportion to those error bars. And so it wasn't clear. At first, when it was discovered, it was given a 2.7% chance of hitting the Earth in 2029. And of course, the press went nuts on that. Great deal of media attention. And it had a small chance of hitting the Earth in 2036. Of course, if it hit the Earth in 2029, then the chance of hitting in 2036 is 0.
Yeah.
So, but now we have observation of it over a longer baseline. We have those error bars have shrunk, and Apophis now will not hit the Earth. It has 0 chance of hitting the Earth within some error, but
15,000
hit it in
about 50
2029 or
days.
2036.
It'll be within the orbits of the geocentric satellites, which are only 22,000 miles out there, right? It'll be
That's
within
right.
those. It'll be that
We'll
close.
fly under those.
Yeah. Ooh.
And it'll be
It's
naked
still-
eye visible as it goes by, which is the big thing, but we don't get it. We don't get to see it.
That's true. You're right. But now, can you have a picture in your notes of it sitting in New York Harbor, this very rock we're looking at right here, to give you an idea of its size? Oh my God.
Yeah, it's sitting in the part of Manhattan called the Battery Park. At this end of the island, they used to have a fort with guns pointing outward against naval ships, and it was called the Battery.
Too bad they don't.
Would they, if there was a 25% chance of collision, would we deploy some type of a deflection like they did with the what was it, an asteroid that they bumped into?
Think about
the
it.
DART mission.
Yeah.
Could they nudge this away if they needed to, and at this size?
This would be harder. This would take nukes, I think.
It depends on what it's made of, how hard it is.
Hmm. too bad they don't just land like that and settle down and sit in the harbor without doing any damage.
No, when this one arrived, if this one arrived on Earth, it would be loaded with a lot of kinetic energy, and you wouldn't want to be there. It's
This looks like Uluru, like Ayers Rock.
yeah. So it's hard to tell the exact size of it, but studying it in methods that Chuck does with asteroid occultations and looking at it with radar, I believe they've decided it's about 450 meters long by 170 meters wide. It's likely egg-shaped or even dual-lobed, like Arrokoth, another asteroid we studied more.
Hmm. Well, you can multiply a meter times 3 and get about 3 feet. So 400 meters is about 1,200 feet, wouldn't you say? 1,300. So
Yeah,
that's
about
that's a quarter mile, isn't it? Or
Many soccer fields.
Yeah.
so any threat to Earth has been ruled out for the next 100 years. What would happen if it hit? It would be quite devastating if you were near if it was a city it hit, it would kill millions of people, but it's not a major extinction event like the one that hit in Chicxulub down in Maya, the Mayan Peninsula. So the 2029 pass Apophis will be visible from Europe, Africa, and Western Asia. And you should see it move by. It'll be what is it, a magnitude 3.1 star.
So question, gravity assist, something we use to deflect or slingshot around planets, some of our probes, would it affect this thing going by in 29?
It'll
to where
change
they
the
have to
orbit, yes.
Yeah.
All right, so have they taken that into consideration on the 2036 visit?
Yes.
So if it weren't passing so close to us, it would be on another intractable orbit that would be nowhere near us in 36. You follow
Yeah.
what I'm saying there?
Potentially.
Yeah.
It's amazing how they do that. Like, it's got to be computers.
It's a lot of math.
Did any of you hear about somebody proposing if we could mine a certain asteroid, we'd all be rich on Earth, assuming they
Oh yeah,
divide
that's
up,
what is that?
we'd
Psyche.
all be multi-billionaires.
Psyche.
Psyche, that's it, yeah.
And that's the
I
only
suspect that's a speculation. It's clearly it looks like it's a metal asteroid, previous core of a differentiated planetoid. But the fact that they claim that we're all going to be rich, it's probably mostly iron, and there might be some gold in it, but who knows?
Well, if
Gold-
everybody's rich, nobody's rich, right? I
Yeah.
mean,
That's right.
they're not going to give it to us.
Take a look at housing prices if that's distributed.
Maybe it's got that alien living on that horrible creature from the movies.
Well, it'd be devastating for somebody that didn't get a share.
yeah.
Because remember the Alien movie, the first one, that was a metal carrying spaceship coming back to Earth.
It was carrying hydrocarbons. It was a large gas station in space.
You're kidding. I thought it was metals.
No,
It says metal carrier, I think.
no, no.
What?
The Nostromo was a hydrocarbon carrier.
Yeah, and every one of those characters on board, I couldn't imagine being given permission to drive a rocket ship in space. They're like miners, you know. What do we got here, Jerry?
No, they were just truck drivers.
Okay.
They didn't mine it.
Harry Dean Stanton, the first victim.
Yeah.
Okay, where are we here?
Well, this is a
Well,
challenge.
Harry Dean Stanton was a later victim. It was
Oh, the guy he got it on his face
yeah,
through the
the face
helmet?
hugger. Yeah, that was
That's
the
true.
guy from he's also in Harry Potter.
You notice how fast it grew from jumping out of his chest as a little dinky worm? It became this monster within about an hour and a half.
Those things were generated as bioweapons,
Yeah.
and they
Wonderful.
changed and morphed. And anyway,
Anyway,
this is a challenge. Astronomy Magazine set it up as a challenge especially for people up here in the northern hemisphere. This is about as high as it gets above the southern horizon.
Mhm.
So that's going to be pretty challenging. It's in Eridanus, the river,
Mhm.
which is
Okay.
not represented by lines here. So what it is called a ring galaxy, or the snow collar galaxy.
No
It's a
color.
fairly bright galaxy at 8.5 magnitude. It
Are we bringing this up this time of year just because it's dead winter or because it's easy to see it?
It's not easy to see it. This is a challenge for those people that want to see it. It
Yeah.
gets away from the moonlight, and as the moon is going from full to last quarter. So that's the reason for the selection of things we're looking at here, is because even with the waning moon, full moon, you can still see these objects in a scope.
I've never seen a galaxy look like that.
Yeah, nobody has. It's that's why it's so unusual. It looks like according to Stephen James O'Meara, it looks like a snow collar.
Yeah, well, why not? All the stars orbit in the center, just like our planets orbit the sun in rings, or you got your
Now,
belts, Kuiper,
This has got suggestively, this has got two rings,
right?
and it's got two bars.
Mhm.
2 bars.
So two of everything means there might be two galaxies. So this might be a merger, or it might be one of those ring galaxies where it's in the process where one galaxy collides and passes right through the center of the other and leaves a
Oh,
ring. So
okay.
here it was in the process. So it's a nifty thing to claim that you've seen it.
So they might be overlapping each other exactly, and one bar is from one galaxy and the other bar is from the other.
Yes, they might be on top of each other, or they might be actually passing through each other.
But now the bars aren't crossed like an X, I don't think,
No.
right?
Slightly.
Slightly.
They're
Okay.
offset. One of them is
Yeah, see,
kind of, yeah.
One is here, and one is here.
I'll be damned.
Hmm.
Okay.
I think it's a flashlight shining through an old-fashioned donut.
Yeah.
Are you hungry, Tim?
It's a cinnamon roll.
It's a synonym roll, yeah.
Yeah.
And so there's likely 2 giant supermassive black holes in the middle of that,
Yep.
ready to merge if they
Possibly,
haven't.
yes.
Yeah. Wow. What's the bright star to the right?
Don't know that.
Okay. Well, we're going to Mars.
Oh.
I see Sonia Henney.
Now, this is a picture taken by released by the European Space Agency. It's been released a while ago, but it came up again on my machine.
Wow.
It's taken by the high-resolution stereo camera on board ESA's Mars Express spacecraft. And spectroscopically, it's been determined that this is water ice sitting on the floor of an unnamed crater near the Martian North Pole. It's also water ice up here on the rim. So this would be a good place to land and start your colony, because you've got a good supply of water there, which can be disassociated into giving you oxygen and hydrogen, rocket fuel, or breathing air.
Or drinking water. Just land in it and you've automatically melted it.
Yeah.
But I guess it's a pond. You suppose you have fish in it?
It's not
if they
none
were,
of
I
it's
would check
liquid.
them out.
Okay.
No, it's solid.
Water is pretty common, but oxygen is not as common as a hydrogen, is it? But when they get together in space, they just normally like to come together, 2 hydrogens to, let's see.
It's
Yeah,
a popular
really
bonding-
reactive.
what?
It's a popular molecule.
Yeah.
Popular in that they get together fast.
Yeah,
like-
oxygen's very reactive. It likes to get together with all kinds of stuff.
That's true. Yeah, CO2 and O2 and O1. All right, well, here Earth before. Oh, yeah.
Now, you might remember back in the 50s before Sputnik, this
Yep.
is what we looked like from space. Although this picture is more recent, but it looks clean. Here's a graphic of what it looks like now with over 30,000 spacecraft.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, over the true number of objects there is that are larger than 1 centimeter in size is likely over 1 million objects. 30,000 pieces of tracked space debris.
Mm.
There's a great demo in the planetarium where you can bring that stuff up and it's orbiting and you can see it, you
Yeah.
know, just
You
a
can see it
mess.
moving. Yes.
Well, I recently emailed Chuck asking what SEC means, and he told me it's not Securities and Exchange Commission, it's Science and Engineering Council. One of our members saw Dr. Larry Martinez talk
Yeah.
about this very subject back in November. I just booked him for our April 5th of this year's talk
Okay.
on our
Excellent.
meeting.
That's a great organization. They do a lot of good talks.
Really? Is it nationwide or just California?
No, it's a local group here in town.
Oh,
You
it's
can join
local.
and be a member. They meet once, I think once a month. They eat, it's at a restaurant and it's a lunchtime talk.
How many of them are in our club?
It's a
I
fair
don't know.
number.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, this 4 or 5.
I used to go to some of the meetings, but I never became a member of that. They have a tendency to get local people, and it's mostly business type stuff, companies they started and business opportunities. There's a lot of science, but there's also a lot of business, and I want to stick to the science part of it. But
Yeah,
this represents. Go ahead.
Technically, you and Chuck and the other guys who hit your prime out on Hollister Avenue and the R&Ds, the research and development, you were engineers mostly, right? Doing
Well, I was
scientific
engineers
stuff
and manager.
and manager.
I was department manager. I had a crew of 100 people that reported to me.
Is that right?
We did the system engineering. We did integration and test of the final equipment. We did design of the equipment before it started. Integration and test software development, and I forget the other thing that was necessary. But I'll show you some pictures of that at some point. But
Sure.
This is what's called LEO, low Earth orbit, LEO. This does not include the 22,000 miles up where the synchronous satellites are. So this is about 4,000 miles. And then these are about 150 to 200 miles up for the low Earth orbit. And then up here above that orbit, they are, well, way above it, way out of the picture would be the synchronous satellite things. Those are not nearly so dense. Nowadays, by agreement, everything up there is either put in a low Earth orbit so it will naturally decay after 25 years, or it's put up there with rocket fuel supply so that it's not just left there, it's deorbited. So it lands in one of the oceans.
Or they boost it into a really high orbit where it's out of the way.
Yeah.
Or they move it out of the way if something's coming at it. Maybe.
Now there are tides on the atmosphere of the Earth, where the moon pulls on it, the sun pulls on it. But there's also swelling and shrinking from energy from the solar wind. And when the atmosphere gets heated up above the top of the atmosphere, it swells up. And then so the lowest satellites here, the drag increases and they deorbit themselves like that. About, I think 1 to 2 years ago, I think maybe last year, SpaceX launched one of its Starlink satellite clusters, and they parked it in a very low orbit. And when they did that, just about that time, the sun blew up and all their satellites re-entered.
Not all, but a fraction of them did. Yeah.
Right. And they were not able to get them all up into the orbit, their parking orbits where they were supposed to be for the final orbit.
Well, a couple of questions.
We'll do some that way.
Elon Musk was the first guy to come along and say, wait a minute, why are we just putting one satellite in orbit on this spaceship? We can do 12.
No, that's been done before.
That's been done?
Yeah.
All right, then second question. All the manned missions, Mercury, Gemini, Apollo, were they low orbit?
No, the
And the
Apollo went to the
ISS?
moon.
Yeah.
No, I mean, with the initial ones, Apollo 11 finally got us to them, or, 8, the whole Apollo.
Yeah, the initial one, Mercury, was suborbital.
Yeah.
Okay, but it seems to me that there's a couple of figures in mind that are pretty common. One is 17,000 miles an hour, and the other is it takes about an hour and a half.
Yeah, those both apply to Leo.
Okay, low Earth orbit. The geocentrics stay out there and they turn with the Earth and they stay in the same place technically.
That's right. It takes them 24 hours to go around once.
Are they going-
Geosynchronous. Geosynchronous, Ron.
Are they moving in place faster than the low orbit objects?
No, slower.
They're moving.
Oh, faster. Their period is longer.
Yeah.
I know that, but wouldn't they be having to move fast? They got to cover more area.
It's a good question for you to work out.
Well, how about the two non-talking members of the screen? What are they doing? Tom Whittemore, Tim Crawford? You want to weigh in on this?
So Ron, I just want to mention tomorrow afternoon, the Earth is at perihelion, closest to the sun.
Sorry to hear that.
And already our patio furniture is all over the place.
Well, maybe it should wear a mask. The rest of us are perihelion as well, I guess.
My only comment is, when is BFI going to get involved in getting all the trash out of there?
There are people that are working on satellites that go up and collect other satellites and debris and junk. The trouble is, when China sends their satellites up to clear orbits, they tend to clear secret US satellites out of orbit.
Yeah, it's going to be a mess.
Well, another side question that occurs to me as we run out of time here is, how do we end up with enough frequencies to communicate with and command and get data back from? It would seem to me we're scattered all over the electromagnetic spectrum. At least
We are, and that's a big problem. That's why it's regulated by international agreement. Otherwise, you wouldn't get anything done.
You suppose there are hackers down here on Earth, little ham radio freaks that know how to tap in and figure out?
Oh yeah, you can tap into data streams that come down from satellites and pick them up, and in some cases generate your own pictures that they're sending. In other cases, it's encoded, and you don't know how to uncode it, so it's a secure communication.
Well, you might be able to block or send it on a terrible journey or something if it's somebody else's satellite, I would think.
No, they're very high security systems.
Well, gentlemen, we've done it again. I love it. Thank you. I've learned a lot, and I just am amazed to be among you, going into our third year soon. This is our 150th program. We're going to meet again here next week on the 8th, Monday. But in the meantime, Friday night will be one of the rare Zoom meetings we've had from a Dr. What is his name? Is Italian Mata? Mata. He will be calling in on screen from Florida about a club he's a member of and spokesman for way up in Vermont that Jerry turned us all on to back in September. And I went after them and found out they've been partying all year. And now that it's over, they want to kind of do a recap for us on the big screen there at Farron Hall this coming Friday night. 7 o'clock we'll meet in the planetarium. 7:30 we'll be inside, and hopefully the sound will work. And gentlemen, take care of yourselves and be healthy in 2024.